Hey, everybody. Shane Presley here, Rock Paper Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to another brand new episode. Whether you've been here or you're new here, I really am glad you're here with us. And thanks again for all the continued support. Big thanks to today's guest, Brian Krumm. Joins me on Zoom. Had a lot of fun hanging with him, getting to know a little bit more about him and his music. And he's got a brand new record titled Just Fade Away that released over the summer. And now available on digital and CD and vinyl. And you can catch Brian and his band opening for one of my great friends and favorites, Holliday and the East Side Rhythm Band, this Friday night, October 13th, in Collinsville, Illinois, at the historic Miners Theater. So grab tickets to that show and come out and join us Friday night at Miners for a fun evening of music. But yeah, you're going to hear all about Brian's story from growing up in Collinsville area to moving to Chicago. And we have a lot of fun talking about his record, Just Fade Away, on today's episode. Again, I do want to remind you, as always, Rock Paper Podcast is brought to you by Friendship Brewing Company in Wentzville, Missouri, serving up all your craft beer needs. Over 25 rotating taps over there, so they sure to have a beverage just right for you. All kinds of tasty drinks, and you got your burgers and nachos, flatbread pizzas, pretzels, all kinds of your tasty bar eats. And you can always catch some great live music there on the weekends. And with it being fall now, we're getting into some cooler temps. It's fun to sit out on a patio and enjoy a nice fall evening. And you can we'll kick off your weekend Thursday night with Singo Bingo. This Thursday, October 12th, is Singo Bingo 2010's Party Mix. Friday, October 13th, Denver Wade Trent returns. And on Saturday, October 14th, Steve Kyle. Sunday, 1 to 4, you can catch Josh Liddig out there. And you've been hearing me talk about it on the show, but recently launched a brand new location, a bigger location, just outside of Wentzville in Flint Hill, Missouri, calling it the Fly High location. And you can come out there get the same great beers, a whole different dining experience in their Fly High kitchen. A lot of great food also coming out of there. So come on by and see what's happening in Flint Hill, Missouri. This weekend, you got Friday, James Birtles on Friday the 13th. And Saturday, Corey Clapper returns, Saturday, October 14th. You can find their full concert calendar, beer menu, food menu, and everything else at friendshipbrewingcompany.com. Get plugged in on the socials, Facebook and Instagram. And come out and support some great local beer at Friendship Brewing Company. And if you need anything from me, of course, you can always find me at rockpaperpodcast.com. Hit me up on the socials. Email me, rockpaperpodcast@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. And with that out of the way, sit back, relax, and enjoy a brand new episode with Brian Krumm.
A podcast is kind of like it's like a radio show that's not on the radio. It's on the internet. Does that make sense? Uh-huh. Yeah. That's also like my mom. It makes it sound more confusing, doesn't it? It sounds like this.
Rock Paper Podcast.
Scissors beat paper, paper covers rock. Rock beats scissors, Shane covers non-stop. Never know what new kind of guest that he's got coming at you. Live and direct on the spot. Could be rock, folk, country, or hip-hop, jazz. All kind of folks that he has. Could be an artist or a comedian to make you laugh on the
Rock Paper Podcast.
double-decker fudge round, rolling round town. coming at you live and direct from ground zero. He's your hero, he's your bestie. Rock Paper Podcast with Shane Presley.
Rock Paper Podcast.
Hey, everybody. Shane Presley here. Rock Paper Podcast coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri. Hanging out today via Zoom with Brian Krumm. Welcome,
Brian
to
Krumm. You're coming at you via Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago, man. I love it up there.
Not too bad. Not too bad. It can be hard for a Cardinals fan, but
Sure. Yeah, we make the drive. Maybe try once a year, maybe, or every other year sometimes. But we've gone to a couple of different Cubs series up there, and take the Amtrak and get some pizza and just make a weekend of it, kind of thing. And
totally, the Amtrak is really a good way to go. I've taken the Amtrak several times back and forth, but I was going to say that my mom, dad, sister, and brother are still in the Collinsville area. My brother lives in Glen Carbon, but they do. I have to remind them to come up. You got to come up at least once a year.
Yeah,
and that tends to be around when the Cardinals are at Wrigley.
Sure,
we've had some good times.
Yeah. We did like a bachelor party one year. Like 14 of us jumped on Amtrak and went to a Cubs game and got bleacher seats and just had a great time. And
that's a perfect spot for a bachelor party, I think.
Yeah, it was a good weekend for sure. And I do remember. I thought it was really funny that somebody had a bottle of Goldschlager. Amtrak allows you
from
to,
the past.
Yeah, Amtrak allows you to drink on the train, and but the guys popped open this bottle of Goldschlager and started passing it back and forth across the aisles, and they're like, "Hey, you can drink, you just can't drink like that." Like, they didn't
can't bring your own booze on the train.
Or you could. I think you could have beer and liquor, but they didn't want us all passing around a bottle like that. So. Anyway, apparently that's frowned upon on Amtrak. So
how dare they frown upon something like that?
Right. But that was quite the experience, though, for sure.
You said, but we're drinking liquid gold.
Yeah, right.
Royalty. We deserve to be able to pass it wherever we want to.
Yeah. So you mentioned Collinsville. That's was home. You said most of your youth.
That is where I grew up. Yeah, from age 0 to age 17. Before I went to college at the U of I in Champaign, Urbana. And I also have a sweet spot in my heart for Collinsville, and that's why I'm super excited to be playing at the Miners Theater right there on Main Street, because that place has a lot of memories for me. Going all the way back to seeing Star Wars when it first came out in the 70s.
Yeah.
I remember going there, seeing it back when Star Wars came out. It was like, it wasn't if you have seen it yet, it's how many times have you seen it, Right. So this was 1978, I think. And then, my band in Champaign was called the Suede Chain. And we actually recorded a record there with the producer was Adam Schmidt. And we rented out the Miners Theater for a week. And we ended up getting enough tracks to make this album called Piloted by Ghosts. And that came out in right about 1996, I think, on the Mud Records label out of Champaign. And so, it was great to record there. Sounded great. You can hear the theater on the record for sure. I think it's on all the digital streaming platforms these days. It's called the Suede Chain. And so, we had a great time there. We had a couple run-ins with the Miners Theater, is kind of notorious for having some ghosts floating around in the atmosphere. And we definitely had some strange occurrences, some strange bumps in the night, although, maybe that had to do with that. We were recording all the way up till 2 a.m. sometimes. So.
All right.
But yeah, it's just recently gone through like a very, very great rehabilitation and refurbishment, and it looks great. So they're having full-on shows there now, and we're super excited to be there on Friday, October 13th, coming up really soon with Al Holliday and the East Side Rhythm Band, who, believe it or not, Al is also a Collinsville native.
Yeah.
So we got that going for us.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun night for sure. And you talking about some of that, I did triggered a memory. There's a space over in Alton. Can't remember what. It's the old schoolhouse, I think. Something like that.
It was a venue, or turned into a venue.
Yeah, and then there's a coffee shop there.
I vaguely remember what you're talking about. I can't pinpoint the name of that.
But so whatever was a school, and then it was closed down, and then it's been a couple different things since then. And there's rehearsal spaces in there for bands and stuff now.
Oh, okay.
And anyway, there's a lot of it that's pretty well closed off to the public. But we were I was talking to these guys there that practice in those rehearsal rooms, and there was we did a podcast in the coffee shop area, and there was some really weird stuff that appeared on the audio.
Oh,
never happened in other places. And I was and it was just kind of a weird timing of it all, that we happened to be talking about how it was haunted. And then there's these weird things that appeared in the recordings. And then they took me through the building and showed me some of the things that,
figures.
Where it's supposed to be some spooky stuff happening. And they've had, those ghost hunter shows in there doing stuff and all that. But it's also, the show is also on Friday the 13th. So it should be a good spooky October show. Let's hope that, spooky season.
That much any bad luck, but we'd love to see. Looking forward to seeing a lot of old friends that have already contacted me about coming to the show, and it's coming up really quick.
Yeah, so you'll be here touring to support your brand new record that we now have available on vinyl and CD and digital, and titled "Just Fade Away," and that came out June
2nd. Yeah, so it's only been out 4 months, but I guess that's a long time in the music world.
But this record sounds fantastic, man.
Thank you.
I gave it a spin early this morning, and then a little later in the afternoon at work, and just was a lot of fun to kind of take a deep dive into it, and really enjoying the songwriting. And
thank you.
It was reminiscent for me of a lot of kind of favorites of mine. I think some of your vocal stylings kind of there's some Tom Waits maybe, or even Tom Petty, and some of these kind of guys, these great American songwriters and stuff. I think all that kind of comes through as some of your influences maybe.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was a labor of love. It was kind of we didn't really know that we were making an album when we started. Chris Motor and I, my longtime best friend, we grew up together in Collinsville, and we live in Chicago area these days, and we've been playing in the Great Crusades for more than 20 years. So it was during the pandemic, and we were both sort of going crazy, and we decided to start sending files back and forth to each other and just working on songs that way. And I made a challenge Actually, it was my wife's idea that she came up that I should have a shot of whiskey every day at 5 p.m.
All right.
and try to write a song within 1 hour. So I did that, and I came up with 25 songs in 25 days, and then we sort of started passing those files, those rough demos back and forth, because I was just recording the initial ideas on my iPhone. And then we went back after, some things opened up after the pandemic. We started, actually re-recording some parts and sending them back and forth. And that's how the album started coming together. So it was something positive that came out of the pandemic, at least one thing, this record. Yeah. And the influences, I think those are right on target. I've gotten comparisons with Waits over the years, and then I think this record has a little bit more Warren Zevon influence, maybe some Dylan. The Jayhawks have always been a big favorite of mine, their songwriting. And, I think I was listening to some Dylan too during this time period, and it all is during that time period. I don't know if it was like this for you, but, after you finish dinner or finish working, it was kind of like, okay, what now? For me, it was listening to music.
Yeah.
And then sort of think probably some of those records that I was listening to might have influenced, some of these songs.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, those Warren Zevon's like definitely one of the greats, it's like
For sure, yeah.
And I don't think he quite gets the credit that he deserves.
Yeah, well, I was very upset that he didn't get the nod for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame recently.
Yeah.
But, well, I don't know about very upset. I was disappointed.
Sure.
I was gunning for him. I was voting for him on the popular vote, and my wife actually bought me a membership to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because it was said that if you had the membership, you could buy tickets, when for the ceremony at a cheaper rate, or be guaranteed to get tickets. And so I was like, oh, that's such a nice birthday present. And then we went ahead and we heard that Warren wasn't going to be inducted, but we went ahead and bought tickets anyway. So we're going out there. And I actually combining pleasure with pleasure. I'm doing a gig the night before in Brooklyn, a solo gig at this place, Pete's Candy Store, on November 2nd. And then I'm going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony just because on the 3rd, on the Friday. And Sheryl Crow will be there. So I opened for her years ago with Suede Chain, and
very cool.
And forward to be a cool night.
Yeah. I got to see her for the first time a couple years back at a Roots and Blues in Columbia, Missouri, and that was
okay.
It was a nice treat. They did like an all-female lineup, and she headlined it, and so it's cool that having a Missouri native headlining the festival.
Yeah. We opened for her right when she was signed to her major label, right when Tuesday Music Club came out. And we were kind of like, who is this person? We don't know. We're opening for Sheryl Crow, never heard of her. And then, of course, she apparently had some very nice things to say about the Suede Chain back in the day. So thank you, Sheryl.
Yeah. Very cool. So let's drop in a track. There was talking about this record. Is there a particular favorite you would like to share?
How many minutes do you have here? Let's see.
We can do whatever. There are no rules.
No rules.
Yeah, it's the internet.
Let's try Just Fade Away.
Yeah.
Song 2. There's the single off the record.
Yeah. What would you like to share around Just Fade Away? Is there any particular story?
It's just another one of those songs that sort of, a lot of these songs on the record, unbelievably to me, came together within a very short period of time, and I really tried to not overthink what I was writing about. And these lyrics for this song, I mean, you can tell it's kind of a song about departure, relationships. There's some airport imagery in there, you know, and some it's like a very heartfelt storyline behind it. But after, as was the case with a lot of the songs on the record, I just kept writing and almost wrote past the end of the song, sometimes unbeknownst to me. But then I would go back and say, wow, I guess there is a song here. And I only spent, 45 minutes or an hour to try to get down the basic gist of it, and a lot of times I got lucky. And this was one of those songs that got lucky with. And I think it's, a great tune sonically, and the singer, Jessie Hotelling, she sang on a few songs on the record. Really dig her vocals. And then Brian Wilkie from the Chicago area, sort of a master and an old friend from the Champagne days, plays pedal steel. And I just really loved how the song came together.
Yeah, man.
I loved you when no one else would, and I loved you when no one else could. When you burn your bridges, let your friends fall as they may. You ran home to your mother and tried to just fade away, just fade away. You never even once laughed at my jokes, because you didn't think of them first. You earned your right to be shaded. Said all you wanted was not to be hated, and it just fade away, and it just fade away. Ooh, just fade away. Maybe tomorrow is not today. Ooh, just fade away. Never forget what you had to say. Ooh, just fade away. Maybe tomorrow is not today. Ooh, just fade away. How can I not remember that day when you stepped on a plane to take you away? It was easy to escape in the clouds up above. You just didn't know how to be in love, had to just fade away. Ooh, just fade away. Ooh, just fade away. Ooh, just fade away. Just fade away. I loved you when no one else could, and I loved you when no one else would.
You mentioned earlier too, like kind of getting some of the demos, like on your iPhone, and these kind of recordings. Did that? I can't remember the title or the track, but it sounds like it kind of like shifts at the end of the song, and like it might be part of the demo on that recording. Is that a case?
There's a few songs, that do feature some sort of field recordings from a lack of a better term, but I know I did some recording at but I think those were all recorded before those were all just things that I had in my back pocket that I was like, this recording of a packed bar room with just people talking super loud, appeared on the song Stagger In, and then a recording of Robin outside my house ended up on a song called Good Times Not the Bad. And so there's Chris Motor, I think, did an amazing job sort of pulling some sound elements in like that were a little bit unexpected, but definitely a lot of atmosphere to a couple of the tunes.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was cool to incorporate those in there.
Yeah, and I mean, we're no Pink Floyd or anything, but we try to experiment a little bit.
I did. There was one of these I did with guy Jackson Howard, and we kind of did this back porch picking type of episode where they were kind of doing song swap, and he was singing a song about going into the woods and his little hideaway. It was the title of the song, and it was just I had this Blue Yeti tabletop microphone, just omnidirectional, and it kind of just picked up a lot of sounds of the bugs and stuff that were on the patio, and it was such a really cool moment capturing it live. And then he goes into the studio, and I don't know that particular recording influenced it, but he incorporated a bunch of like bug sound effects on his album recording too. So cool. it was just a kind of a neat moment for me, like that on this like random live recording that we got up pretty close to what his record almost sounds like it. So is it kind of a similar, thing that you incorporated some of that to your actual record and stuff? But so
yeah, I've always been a big fan of bands that do that, sort of go outside the norm and play songs that you might hear in everyday life. It's not all about just what you hear in the studio. If you're an actual human being walking around the city or whatever, the country or you hear lots of different things. So yeah,
it was cool to hear a little nod to Stagger In. I haven't been there myself, but I hear a lot of great stories of the history in that room and everything, and so it was fun to hear in your song the black and white tiles, the small stage, like you're really painting the picture of what this room was or is still, and so
sitting back here before the show, in the office by the stock room is closed, filled with bottles and cans. We got wine, whiskey, and gin. We got everything that a man or a woman could want. And the back room was filled with smoke, dusty papers and a beer sign, it's broke. Waiting is the hardest part, waiting for 9 o'clock. 'Cause that's when it's time to rock. Step on the small stage, black and white tile. That was all the rage in 1974 at the Stagger Inn. At the Stagger Inn. I stole a kiss in the alley that led you all into this. Stepped inside the swinging doors. Waiting is the hardest part, for sure. Waiting for 9 o'clock, 'cause that's when it's time to rock. Step on the small stage with black and white towel. That was all the rage in 1974 at the Stagger Inn. At the Stagger Inn. And I guess I'll see you again. I'll never take you for granted, my friend. To hear the sounds of anyone, hear the sounds of everyone. Waiting for 9 o'clock, 'cause that's when it's time to rock. Step on the small stage with black and white towel. That was all the rage in 1974 at the Stagger Inn. At the Stagger Inn.
Yeah, it's a longtime favorite of mine. It's definitely, I think, one of the centers of the universe in general. You know, whenever you go in there, it's like you just feel a great vibe. You know, I've always loved the Stagger Inn, and I've played there, you know, many times, and every time I've played there, it's just been a great experience. Not only the performance, but you know, just the whole night. Usually, you know, it's
Right.
like,
Yeah,
I highly recommend, if you're in the Edwardsville area, to check out the Stagger Inn again.
yeah. I think I can recall Dana Michael Anderson sharing some stories, and I think he ran a open mic there for a long time, and
Absolutely, yeah.
doing so there's a lot of kind of legendary stories about him and playing that room and stuff. And
Yeah, and Dana actually sang on the record on the song called Never Do As I'm Told. He does background vocals on that, and I'm still super sad that he's not with us anymore, you know, and I miss him terribly.
For sure.
And I know a lot of people do too, you know. But yeah, he definitely had a connection with the Stagger. I know that they did a tribute show to him shortly after he left us. And we're also doing, I'm also involved in a show on the 25th of November down in Granite City. We're going to do a tribute show to Dana at a new venue called The Mill. And it's in Granite City. His brother JB helped design this space, and that's actually only about 2 or 3 blocks away from where his family grew up. So it's a very appropriate setting, you know. And yes, please listen to Dana and Michael Anderson's music.
Yeah.
And do it often, because he was not only a great friend of mine, but an amazing songwriter. I got a chance to tour with, he came over to tour with the Great Crusades. It was a while ago in the 2000s, but he just would win over the crowd, let me tell you, every night. And sometimes he would even come out after we were done and we were tearing down our amps and guitars and stuff, and Dana would come out and play it just acoustic with no PA or anything, and people would gather around and just loved him, you know. And yeah, so I will miss him for sure.
For sure, yeah.
But come by that November 25th show, Saturday, November 25th, the Mill in Granite City, and I know that we're going to play. A big group of people will be there, and we'll play not only some covers that he liked to do, but also, I'm assuming, several of his original songs, which are great.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, we hung out. I don't know, it was like spring. Can't remember exactly when we've recorded it. Maybe even whatever.
Yeah, it was a great episode.
What's that?
A great episode.
Yeah, but that was
the episode
was a real treat for me to sit down with him and like capture that. And I reshared it after he passed, because I was like, man, like, I know it's a super sad, but it's like I always like having these moments like where you can hear him passionate about his stuff and his music and songwriting and helping others and all these things. A much happier time.
Yeah, for sure. And he was actually supposed to come up here in October on the 15th, at the end of our tour. So I'm sure we'll play like one of his tunes at that show, the Montrose Saloon, in October. That's October 15th. So we're starting out in Indianapolis on the 12th, the 11th, Indianapolis at the Melody Inn. And then the next night we play Nashville at the 5 Spot. And then we're on to Collinsville, the big city of Collinsville, on Friday the 13th. And then appearance at the Champaign-Urbana Roots and Folk Festival on the 14th. And then back in Chicago on the 15th. So
nice. And you can find all the details at briankrumm.com.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Get plugged in on Facebook and Instagram for more info.
Yeah.
And like I said, the album, Just Fade Away, streaming on all your favorite platforms and also available on LP and CD. So you can pick that up at any of the shows coming up too.
Yeah. And Pravda Music is the site, pravdamusic.com. The record label is Pravda Records, great Chicago label. They've been putting out some stellar releases these days. So
very nice.
Check them out too.
Yeah. I wanted to highlight one more tune. And it just, I felt connected to it because it's how I feel. But back in my old neighborhood, I still live in my old neighborhood, but I think about it a lot, because like it is very much changed from when I was a kid. So it's like, for me, I kind of have similar conversations as I'm going through town. I'm like, this is where, this is what this used to be, or, this, how the way I remember my town, even though it's much different today. But so it was fun to hear this, the kind of this song, how you're kind of telling that story.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Back in my own neighborhood, back in my own neighborhood, nothing much has changed except for me. Back in my own neighborhood, back in my old neighborhood. Nothing much has changed as far as I can see. There's the corner shop where I used to buy us wine. There's the bars and restaurants, so fine. This is where we fell in love. This is where we fell in love. Once upon a time, not too long ago. This is where I fell in love. I swear to the Lord above. Once upon a time, but not too long ago. This is where we used to walk hand in hand. This is where we used to talk again and again and again. Do you remember all those nights we got to fight? But I always made it up to you. In my own neighborhood, where I thought I could rule the world, nothing ever seemed to get me down. Yeah, back in my own neighborhood, where I thought I could change the world, nothing ever seemed to get me down.
That was I don't think I realized if that was about Collinsville or about Chicago, because I did write that in during the pandemic too, and it was written after driving around some old neighborhoods I used to live in Chicago. But then other people have told me, "Oh, that song that you wrote about Collinsville,"
right?
So, well, yeah, sure, why not? That's what it's about, you know.
Yeah.
But I think I dug that song too. It's like a little bit of Robin Hitchcock influence on that one, and you know, just really fun keyboard part by Chris Motor, and Brian Leach sings on it, and his guitar, and you know, so it's a cool little tune.
Yeah.
Glad you
man.
liked it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, really. I mean, like I said, the whole record sounds great. Sonically, you know, sounds fantastic. I really enjoy the songwriting a lot too. That's something I really dive into, lyrics a lot, and so it was fun to give this a listen, man. You know, we've only been friendly for a little while via the internet, so I wasn't as familiar with some of your work, but I definitely want to go back and check out some more of the Great Crusades and Suede Chain. So
Sure.
check out some of the other previous work.
Yeah, and we're in the process of the Great Crusades put out 9 records over the years, so most of them are available on you know, Apple Music or streaming services or whatever. But there's a few that are still out there that we're in the process of remastering and making available online. So we're gonna put the whole damn back catalog out there.
Yeah. Do you do those kind of things trip you out a little bit when you hear like the numbers, like when they're like, it's been 10 years since this record or whatever, you know, those milestone kind of numbers like that?
Yeah, a little bit. It's more like for me, it's more specific songs. When I hear back, remastering a song that we, recorded in, let's say, the year 2000 or something. It's like, wow, what was that person going through writing those lyrics? And and it brings, it goes all the way from the, beginning of that band all the way up to their last record, I think we put out in 2017. And so there's certain songs that are kind of, it's actually a good way for me to remember lyrics sometimes when I'm playing live, is like to sort of imagine the story that I'm telling in my head, and then the lyrics sort of go along with that. So, but I'm definitely proud of the work that we did with the Great Crusades, and I'm sure that we'll do another album in the future, not only for mainly, a very good reason is to have 10 albums instead of 9, because 10 sounds a lot better.
Sure. I do think that stuff's like, it's kind of fun to see when they kind of come full circle. There's a lot of groups that decide to get back together and play, and then all of a sudden they're like doing bigger shows today than they were then, or it's just like obviously like a group like they're big deal, but like Hall & Oates are doing like arenas, and they were like, they were never that big when they were hitting it early, but then all of a sudden, like now that there's like a resurgence for this music and stuff, and they talk about how like now the people that grew up with them, now they have kids and they're bringing their kids to shows and that type of stuff. Like, so it becomes a generational thing after so long. And,
right.
So that's all, it's kind of funny how music just, keeps going on like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the very common language, it's something that moves people and gives people joy. So that if I've brought anybody, a feeling of that over the years, I think it's worth the effort that I put into it. It's like, or just to affect your day or tell you a story or, put you in a certain mood. I think is when people share that with me, that they felt that after, listening to my music or seeing one of my shows. It's always a joyous feeling for me. It makes it worth, doing it still to this day.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
You said doing a shot a day and writing a song, to create this record. Do you think like that's a pretty good writing practice, or is that just what's worked for you? Then
no, I don't think it's
I just think it's funny when people do find those like little challenges or something to like kind of spark writing, but I think writing every day is a good practice for sure.
Writing every day, out for the shot a day.
Yeah, right.
Necessary. But hey, it was the middle of the pandemic and I was
what else are you going to do?
Going crazy. But no, I think that it is important for artists, I think, to set aside time, for sure, it just, even a half an hour a day just to try to work on stuff really keeps you in a good spot, musicianship wise, and especially if you're a songwriter, it's like really important to just try to write down a few lines a day, which I have not been doing that much lately. I've been getting ready for this tour. So.
Yeah. What is there a song you wish you wrote? Like, is there a certain somebody's you heard you were like, man, I wish that was on my record?
Good question. I mean, I know some of my favorite songs that I wish I would have written any of Buddy Holly's songs. One of my dad's favorites is Oh Boy. That would have been amazing to write that song. Heartbeat would have been amazing to write that song. I really love the song Last Leaf by Tom Waits. That would have been an amazing song to write. But no one can really match Mr. Waits. And delivering the song, not only do you have to write it, but you have to deliver it like Tom Waits does, you know. And I don't know, maybe something from like I mean, there's a shit ton of Bob Dylan songs that I'm sure would have, you know, but just because the lyrics are so amazing. Maybe something I don't know, by the I'll have to get back to you on that one.
All right.
This could be a whole separate separate podcast, actually.
Right.
Yeah, so I just thought I'd mention that if there are any musicians, there's an organization founded by the songwriter Victoria Williams, who's great. She was on tour with Neil Young in 1994, and she ended up having these persistent health symptoms, some conditions, and she ended up founding this organization that specifically helps musicians in need. It's called Sweet Relief, and the website sweetrelief.org, and they not only provide help in the physical challenges, but also in any mental health issues that people, specifically some musicians, are encountering. And so I just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah. It's a very serious thing, man. That's I think I'm glad people seems to be more openly talking about some mental health issues and things, and I hope that we can keep the conversations going and to where people feel more comfortable discussing things before. So, but yeah, it's I'll have to definitely check that out and see if what I can do to support that cause.
Awesome. I just wanted to say thank you very much for having me on. I've a longtime admirer of the podcast. So
thank you. Yeah.
And your listings are amazing that you do. What's happening on Friday night in St. Louis? You know.
Yeah. I'm trying to do my part to support the community. And
no, that's awesome. And I know how much work that is. I used to do similar things for some newspapers I used to work for back in the day, and it's a lot more work than you would think.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. I was kind of doing it, hoping that I started putting, like brought to you by Rock Paper Podcast, hoping that maybe somebody would like the way that looked and wanted to, hire me to do that for them or that kind of sense. But hasn't really happened yet. So I just keep doing it on my own Facebook. And but
there you go.
I do like that, I get I'm glad people get a kick out of it and use it and rely on it. People, if I don't post it, people are asking me where it's at and stuff. So
yeah,
people are looking for it, but that's really why I did it, man. People were saying there's nothing to do in this town. And I was like, well, there's plenty to do. I'll show you.
Yeah. I was going to mention that on November 15th, it's the last residency show at this place called the Montrose Saloon in Chicago. And I have two singer-songwriters from the St. Louis area, Ian Leith and Pierce Krask, are both going to be joining me. And we're actually going to be featuring at least a couple tunes from St. Louis artists on that night, November 15th at the Montrose Saloon. I'll also be on WGN TV that day in the midday show.
Nice.
So that'll be a full day.
Yeah, I like Pierce a lot. He's a really talented guy.
Yeah.
We hung out a little while back, and I'm not as familiar with Ian. I'll have to definitely check him out.
Yeah, please do. And the only last show I was going to mention is November 18th at Martyrs in Chicago.
Yeah.
My friends and another band I play in called Soul Daddy, which is more of a funk soul cover band, but that'll be November 18th at WG at Martyrs.
Nice.
So thank you very much for taking time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to help. And again, what are there tickets? Do we need to get tickets in advance for the Miners show?
There are tickets on sale, yeah, and you can just go to the Miners Theater website to get those. Just do a Google search for Miners Theater.
Yeah, I'll link it all up.
Collinsville.
And then you got Brian Krumm and his Barfly Friends and Al Holliday and the East Side Rhythm Band. Again, October 13th, Miners Theater, Collinsville, Illinois. And going to be a lot of fun, man. I'm really excited to officially meet you in person.
It's the horseradish capital of the world, too. I don't know if you know that.
I didn't know that, no.
We got that going for us, and we got the world's largest ketchup out of water tower.
I definitely knew that one, though. I have a picture on the wall. So, yeah.
All right.
But thank you for spending some time with me tonight. And like I said, I'm excited to pick up my copy on vinyl when you come to town and get it autographed.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Well,
thank you, Brian.
I'm sure someone has asked you this already, but any relation to Elvis or?
I don't know. My aunt told me she's all about the family tree stuff, and there is connections like fourth, fifth cousin or something like that. Like,
all right,
I think if I remember, it was like 2 or 3 brothers immigrated here, and one of those guys was Elvis's grandpa or something.
Whoa.
And then one of them is my grandfather's grandfather or something along those lines. So it's like I don't know how that works, but something like that. We are of relation, but it's pretty distant.
Very nice. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. But it's I don't know. I always kind of laugh about that we're not really like close enough to get any money or any of the fun stuff, but it's cool that to be any bit associated with it. I think it's we went on a family trip to Graceland when I was like 14 or something, and figured we had to check that out at least once.
Oh yeah, very nice.
But it would be pretty cool to have been able to be more involved with it. But my grandma always said that
banana sandwich.
Yeah, my grandma would always say that we looked alike, and I just kind of laughed it off. I was like, all right, whatever, Grandma.
She kind of got something going on there.
Yeah, hey, get the lip curl and the sideburns cleaned up, but yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks, Brian, and I'll
thank you.
I'll see you soon, my friend.
Okay,
bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.